Hello everyone and welcome back to Packs and Recreation. And here we are today with Orza / Avatar Roku as our playmat because I don't think I'm getting my playmats in time for all the Avatar product, but whatever. I will use them in my Commander nights. I don't care. You don't own me. To do another podcast or solo cast, whatever, about the Avatar series while I open some packs. So today we're going to talk about Book 2, Earth, in case you want to hear my thoughts about the rewatching of Avatar's first season. That's the other video, I think link here or there. We open play boosters there. Today we're going to open Jumpstart boosters. So Jumpstart boosters, in case you are new to this, and I guess, you can, this is the short version of it, in case you don't want to hear the whole podcast or you don't care about Avatar. In case you're new to Magic, Jumpstart boosters are not the same as play boosters. Play boosters are these, right? So play boosters is what you normally expect from a TCG. It's just a booster of cards, random cards from that expansion that you can play with. However, Jumpstart boosters are a very specific type of booster that, TLDR contains half a deck to play this specific format, which is Jumpstart. Why? Because a Magic the Gathering deck is 60 cards in 1v1 normal Magic, and a Commander Magic deck is 100 cards. However, each booster in a Jumpstart box contains the very respectable amount of 20. So when you do a Jumpstart deck using 2 packs, you get 40. So it's a smaller deck because it's supposed to be for simpler, quicker games. So a Jumpstart box, or a Jumpstart booster in particular, is a box that has, a box that has multiple boosters, but each booster is basically what it says here. So you can pause it if you want to read it, but each booster has half a deck. And you're supposed to, with a friend, I grab 2, you grab 2, we open it, we shuffle them, and then we fight with my deck, with your deck. We're going to see the format in a second. But before that, I guess let's open the podcast proper, talking about, by the way, is it worth it? Well, if you don't want to build decks from the start, and Avatar doesn't have Commander decks, and you like Avatar, but you want to get into Magic, etc., this is reasonable. However, if you want to learn how to play Magic, you have the same contained experience in a box in the beginner's pack, or the beginner's box. If you know what I'm talking about, here is the review, and if it's not there, it's in the recommended or it's down below. Just look in the channel for beginner box Avatar, and because it has 8 half decks just like this. This is just like the random version of it. So let's get right into it. Mix and match to master the elements. I thought it was appropriate that we use this one for this video because, well, you have the Cabbage Patch, the Cabbage Salesman and Bosco. So 2 very important Earth Kingdom members, even though some people have the conspiracy theory that the Cabbage Salesman is actually a waterbender, and that's how he keeps the cabbages fresh from the inside. But I digress. Yes, the boosters are more shiny, more silvery, and that's going to be cool. To be clear, I'm going to open the whole box, and then I'm going to keep them separate as much as I can, and then I'm going to store them in my cassette tape style boxes for Jumpstart. If you don't know what I'm talking about, there is a video about that too. So a video there or down below, or just looking at the stuff in the channel is cool, I promise. So let's get right into it. First booster, and let's talk about Book 2 Earth. I have a controversial opinion about Book 2 or Season 2, which is it's, a lot of people say that Season 3 is the one that has a lot of filler. I think that even though it's not filler technically, Season 2 is the one that feels more like gapping things, but at the same time is the one that establishes a lot of things. So, by the way, this is what I was talking about. This is what you find inside a booster of Jumpstart. So you get a theme. In this case is Freedom Fighters, go wide, go aggressive, and is white. Normally they are a single color. And you get some cards. Normally one of the cards that you get is the card that I showcase here. This card is a nothing burger, it's just a divider. And then you get some cards, right? Like Jet, Rebel Leader, the Duke, Rebel Sentry, Young Deserters, Inspired Insurgent, Token Puffin, Pipsqueak, Rebel Strong Arm, Wandering Musicians. So you can see that it's not like exclusive, not because it's Jet here, it's like all Jets guys. It's like, well, they try. Rabaru Troop, Acrobatic Leap, Path to Redemption, Valorous Stance, Hook Swords, and then Thrilling Heath. You, most of the times in the Jumpstart boosters, you also get cards such as this is a fixer basically. It enters, choose a color other than white. It gives you white and the other color, which is basically a way to help you with the other half of your deck. And then you get lands. In this case, we get one APA land, and then the rest are normal lands, which is sad because all of them have the same art, but it is what it is. And see, this is one half deck. So then you open another one, and you mix and match. So I think Season 2 is the one that feels, I would say it's filler in the best possible meaning of the word. I think that filler has a very bad connotation nowadays. Oh, nice, Azula. Gain experience with Azula. This looks like a fake ad on the corner of a website, like gain experience with Azula. Azula Ruthless Firebender. And it's black, of course. The Daily Censor, Corrupt Court Official, Fire Nation Ambusher. I thought it was going to be easy just to open this while I talk about the series, but I just get derailed because the packs are very good thematically, and functionally they are okay. In terms of variety, they are more varied than the previous set Jumpstarts, like, the Lord of the Rings or the Phyrexia or the March of the Machine. Those Jumpstarts were a scam, to be honest. They only had like 5 varieties. Here we have more varieties. Now, the quality of the cards and the reprints is limited by the fact that, well, they try to keep it very inside the Avatar lore. And it's great because, well, if you're doing randomly, you shuffle and you're like, okay, I'm gonna play with Azula and Freedom Fighters, which is certainly a combination. It works, right? But if you want to go more flavorful, because if you are doing this, likely you like Avatar as a show, then very likely you just grab stuff that makes sense, and you will do like Azula plus something, right? If you see other videos in this channel opening Jumpstart booster boxes, they are very short. Normally they're like 10 minutes because we open like 6 boosters and we kind of already saw all the archetypes. Each of these has an archetype, and there are small variations on each archetype. And those variations normally mean like one card is different, you know what I mean? But in Avatar, they try to do the proper way, which is there are multiple variants. And you can see that some things here are kind of mixed, right? Like musicians, and so far I got the white, black, red. If my luck is the one that usually is with this, which is quote unquote luck, we will get like one of each color, and then we'll get other patterns. But so musicians, Chongli and the Nomads. This is important because the second episode of season 2 is actually the one with the secret tunnel and all this, right? And I think this is entirely right. So let me try to focus on what I'm trying to say about the show and kind of ignore the cards. I'm just going to talk about them at any point that I'm like, ooh, crazy. Now, bear in mind, because I don't want to interrupt myself a lot of times, that a lot of these themes try to respect themselves, but not so much. As you can see, it's like musicians, cool. But then it's like, okay, this is the same episode. Not so much. Well, actually, yes, Moku is a drummer. Yes, so yes, Tylee not necessarily connected. And then some sagas / songs, right? That's kind of connected. Oh, you can say that these are the guys that were chasing them. Like you can tie some stuff in there, but obviously, the set is there's only a finite amount of cards. There's only so much they can do within a theme. I think so far from what we have been seeing is very well put together. So I applaud that in terms of flavor. But now let's go. So, first episode is all about the Avatar state, all about I'm having to control the Avatar state. And I think that, to be honest, I was saying that this is a season that feels like filler in the best sense possible. I know that filler has a negative connotation nowadays. Like whenever you say, "Oh, this show has filler," even more if you're an anime fan, you roll your eyes, right? And that's in part because we are traumatized by shows like Naruto or Bleach, because and One Piece to a degree. One Piece invented a different type of filler. They started doing filler arcs, and then they completely went we don't have any filler, and it's just instead of that, it's just drag the episodes forever. But in the case of season 2 of Avatar, feels like filler in the best sense of the word, which is, a filler by itself is not a bad thing. Sometimes you need to feel things, feel things. You need to make them whole. And I think that's what happens with season 2, to be honest. I think that season 2 is the one that feels the lore, feels a lot of gaps, and makes it fun, a show that is a lot more fun. For example, I feel that, the first enemies that they have is Admiral Zhao, and it's a very it's like, oh, they chase him. It's like Zuko chases them, etc. And here is more like they focus more on Aang trying to master the Avatar state. It's kind of the whole thing here, because it's like they see it as a win card, right? It's like, oh, you get into that state, and then we win. And getting an Earthbender teacher, and in this season is where Toph comes in, right? So when I say, that's why I say like, feel doesn't mean bad in this case. It means that it's feeling the show. Is making it a lot more whole than it was before. Because season 1 is great, don't get me wrong. Everyone, I think that all 3 seasons are good. Now, if I had to do a ranking, I guess I would do them in the last video of this saga. But I do feel like, a lot of what people love about Avatar and a lot of the things that are remembered about Avatar are in season 2. Which, you need the first season to set up. Season 2 is to kind of explain and expand. And then season 3 is kind of to end. Which ironically seems to, that wasn't the plan. The plan was to have a season 4, but then it couldn't be because of the Shyamalan movie. Because they wanted to focus on that. And then that movie was certainly a thing. And, yada, yada. But I digress. I feel like it starts with that. Then you have some episodes that is like, The Cave of Two Lovers, that has the whole thing about don't worry, the musicians, etc. It expands the lore a little bit, but at the same time, it doubles down on something that I have mixed feelings about when it comes to Avatar, which is the whole, and I mentioned this in the last podcast. It's like it feels like in Western shows, a lot of times romance has to be there. Period. If Avatar was a pure anime, very likely there wouldn't be a single kiss. Even more like, I don't know, they share 30 kisses in the show all along. Someone certainly counted them. But maybe it's a Western thing, I don't know, but they sure made a point of no, we need to put some romance here, etc., which is okay. I'm not against romance, but it does feel a little bit weird. I mean, the Cave of Two Lovers is when the whole thing starts about Aang being like, I like Katara. And it's like, well, I mean, sure. But the thing is, it's kind of weird. I mean, he's 12, if my memory doesn't fail me. Yeah, because he was told that he was going to be an Avatar at 12 and he was supposed to be at 16, but they did it because they felt that the war was coming, etc. And Katara is like, what, 14, 15? I actually don't know the age of Katara. And it's like, well, the age difference is not that, I mean, they're still kids, and that's okay, but it feels weird even more later. That's rough, buddy. It feels weird in the sense that, they even mentioned that in the season 3 play, right? It's like, oh, you are like a brother to me. It's like, yes, they are. That's why it feels kind of weird. But I feel like, and Aang weirdly fixates on this, and you can be like, well, Aang is a kid that didn't get to live because, well, he was frozen. I will dispute that a little bit and say that actually he kind of got to live a lot. He met a bunch of people. He was 12 years old, right? So apparently the world of Avatar is not that big because they reach one point or another very fast, I have to say. But they normally like Aang mentions that, oh, I was here, I was there, I was in the Fire Nation, I was in the Earth Kingdom where he met Bumi, etc. It's like, okay, right, that's cool, but at the same time, it's like, then he did live a little bit. Then you can say that, well, it's his hormones, he he's growing up and therefore he's noticing girls and it's natural. I guess at the same time, it feels kind of weird to me. I don't know. I know likely it's a me thing, and maybe a lot of people are going to see this and go like, nah, I like that. I'm not against it. I just feel that it's like, okay. And even more at the end of, there's a battle later that's like, they share a kiss and then he goes away and they never mentioned that. I was like, what is this, Naruto? That, Hinata is like, oh, I love you, Naruto. Naruto is like, that's cool. And they never mentioned that again. And then somehow they are married later. Gain experience with Zuko. Let's go. Zuko, firebending master. I feel that this is kind of the Zuko season to a degree. This is where most of the growth happens, even though it ends badly. I think that, we have Return to Omashu. There's a lot of theories about the Return to Omashu episode. It's like, what happened here? I think that the screenwriters were happier here. I don't know if they renewed for 2 seasons and therefore they were like, okay, we want to expand the world in the second one. Likely that was the case. The Fire Nation attacks. Yes, sir. But it's the Return to Omashu is interesting. A lot of people have conspiracy theories about Bumi because it's like, hey, why are you not doing anything? It's like, oh, we wait to strike. It's like, okay. But Bumi kind of can take everything. Then we know later down the road that he is part of the White Lotus, right? But the thing, and maybe it's because of that. But at the same time, it's like he's kind of a mad genius of sorts. It's like, oh, he doesn't care, but actually he does. And that's why he kind of does the thing. He teaches Aang an important lesson in that episode, which is, well, sometimes you need to wait for the right moment to strike, which is part of the lesson, I guess. At the same time, it feels weird, and it feels like the writers needed to take Bumi out of the picture because he will be like the natural, obvious choice for Aang to pick as a earthbending master, and they already decided that they wanted something, a character like Toph to go in, which is okay, but it's a weird thing, and you can be like, well, I guess Bumi is crazy, and this led me down the rabbit hole where there is a theory about how Bumi became king, because it's like, well, he's the king of Omashu. It's like, okay, why? Because when Aang meets him as a kid, it doesn't seem like he's royalty or anything. I mean, not trying to be mean to him, but he just looks like another kid. Maybe he was royalty, I don't know. And then he becomes king, and it's weird. Some people online say that it's like trial by combat or something like that. And because he was the best earthbender, he became king, and that's it. And maybe, but it's weird. Some people say that, and people put like 2 and 2 together, and some people say that it was a coup. Why? Because they had a government before, right? When Aang was, 100 years before. But then he did what he told Aang to do, which is wait for the right moment to strike. So he waited for the right moment to strike, and then he became the king in a coup. That makes sense, but it's kind of weird. Then the next episode, but I like the episode. I like the show. Just even if I'm more critical to it, it is what it is. I like the show a lot, and even more now that I rewatch it and I'm older and all that stuff. But the next episode is the swamp. I have to say that the swamp is interesting in terms of world building, and I feel like in season 3 they bring back a lot of things that we thought like, I guess it is filler, but it's not. They always made sure to like bring back stuff that they used in the past, unless even if it's just a reference or something like that, and that's cool. And I love that. Judy, one of many, and the swamp is one of those. I thought that the swamp, I said this last episode, that I thought that the swamp was in the first season for some reason, because I thought that they did like south, middle, and north for water bending, but not really. And I like that the swamp is alive and it teaches something about everything is connected, which then it connects to the whole energy bending later on, even if it was planned or not. But it also introduces something that is like, yes, water bending. If you really think about it, most of the times water bending seems like the weakest one in the sense that you need water to water bend, right? But fire is kind of cool because you can just punch the air and fire appears, right? You don't have any dependencies. The same with air. You can just, punch and earth is kind of less strong because, you need earth. The good thing is that, you have a lot of earth laying around, unless you're in a metal cage or in a flying ship or something. So the further you're away from nature, the less effective is earth bending, which then metal bending makes a point of showing that evolution of like, well, I guess if we're evolving, the bending also evolves, which is okay. Then, they have all that stuff like glass bending and all the stuff that is online. But I feel like that is part of the show's message that is like, but at the same time, earthbending is kind of, and water is the worst in the sense that water is very flexible. It can cut, it can defend, it can do a lot of things. But at the same time, you need water. That's why Katara always has like that backpack with water, or those backpacks, because I think it's like 2 bags. And that's cool. But then here we introduce that it's like, well, listen, plants have water on them. And it's like, yes, they do. And this sets a precedent then for later in the next season when they do like the whole blood bending and all that, which makes sense. Like, I remember the first time I watched that, a lot of times I thought like, you sweat. Can't you just use your sweat to do things or what? The same as like airbending, and apparently Kyoshi. No, not Kyoshi. I don't remember the name, but I think it's like Yang Cha. I remember because it sounds like Yamcha, and I was like, what? The airbender that Aang consults with, apparently in the outside media, she invented some technique that kind of asphyxiates you because it creates like a vacuum of air around your head or something, which is what it is to like fight with combustion benders, because they had those combustion people. They had those back then as well, which is a big mystery. Even in the cars and in the show, it's like, yeah, it's kind of combustion. We don't know how the hell that shit works exactly, and we don't even know the name of the character. It's just Combustion Man, which is funny. By the way, one thing that I want to mention as we open this is that you can't see them all because they don't fit, etc. But we haven't repeated a theme, which is good. That's kind of the joke. If you buy a box of these, at least you don't get heavily repeats. If this was like a normal theme Jumpstart booster set, you will have repeats right away. However, as you may likely notice, we do have a lot of repeated cards. There are a lot of cards like Judy already appeared multiple times. Jet already appeared outside of Freedom Fighter. So there are repeat cards, of course, because they fit multiple themes. But I prefer that than the themes being repeated, because the themes being repeated is just boring. So the swamp is a very good one. They have those two things. And then Avatar Day is also great. I feel like Avatar Day it may feel like filler, but to me it's one of those things that is kind of cool. That is like, listen, the Avatar is a thing. It doesn't mean a thing that happens. It's a force of nature. It doesn't mean that everyone likes the Avatar. And you're like, oh, that's Avatar Day. It's like, yeah, because they hate the Avatar in that town. And it's because they have a different memory of what happened there, right? And you have that flash with Kyoshi and what happened there. And you can still argue, like, that brings a lot of questions that obviously for X or Y, the show doesn't like super dive in, but they kind of touch it. And I guess that's because, that's kind of the beauty of the show. It's for all ages, right? It's like, well, a kid can see it and just see air, fire, water. And an adult can see it and think about these themes more deeply, even if they don't touch them literally in the show. One of them that is kind of a problem with the show is that, well, the Avatar will restore balance to the world. And it's like, why? Like, I understand that that's kind of the purpose of the Avatar, but why does the Avatar have to intervene with the balance of the world? Like, isn't it the normal evolution? Like, if you see what happened in Korra, they created a republic, which is kind of like a middle, right? Like, if the world evolves to, and then you have the comics where like Zuko has this fight with Aang. I know this fight disagreement with Aang after the show ends, like after the time of the show, regarding the the Fire Nation Earth colonies, colonies in the Earth Kingdom. That it's like, well, they are already there. They're already Fire Nation. They already identify with that. They don't want to undo that. Then let them be, right? That's a very good topic. That's very in depth. That's very that's very like full of politics, full of cultural debates that happen in real life a lot. So that's a good thing. That's a good things that the show has. At the same time, you do have to wonder, like, why does the Avatar have to be God and Arbiter, right? And there is also a theme of like everything that an Avatar fixes, they kind of neglect something, and then the next Avatar has to fix that. And it's kind of a never-ending cycle. That's cool, even if it was on purpose or accidental, but that's cool. Like, for example, like the Avatar Kuruk, the water one, in case you don't know, the one that shows to Aang, he apparently focused too much on spirit and the spirit world because of they killed his wife or something. I don't know. I haven't watched like the side media too much. I'm going to, because I am now in Avatar mode, but and he focused too much on that, neglecting the human side, and then he died kind of young. Too young even, and then Kyoshi lived too long actually, and she focused more on people, and kind of some people have the theory that because she was alive for so long and in the Earth Kingdom, then when it was the turn of the Fire Nation to get their Avatar, they had a lot of resentment. They were resenting the fact that it's like, oh, now we get ours, finally, etc. And that's why Sozin was like, now you work with me, etc. And he was like, no, bro. Precisely because Kyoshi kind of interfered with things like that Earth Kingdom dude. Oh, the first repeated one, and he's wise. Now, this is something that I want to show you, which is just because they are the same, they are not necessarily the same. Let's see, maybe I'm wrong. See, first card. Normally the order is important. You have Tiger Seal and Waterbender's Restoration. Then Gran and the Blue Spirit, Otter Penguin and Forecasting Fortune Teller. And then they kind of will converge when they get to the lands. Otter Penguin and Knowledge Seeker, Katara and Sokka. Lol. Then Roddy Snowballers, they already converge. And Messenger Hawk and Turtle Seals, and now they are the same. This is one of the things that I love about this, is that when it's, and then it will Quenchia and Waterbending Lesson, Coastal Piracy and Sokka's Haiku, which is great because it's an actual haiku. I know that everyone says this, but I love it. And then Whirlwind Technique, and then Thriving Island, and then the lands, right? But the thing that I love about this is that this is white and in blue, but different types of whites in Avatar. Like, it can be around water bending and Gran, and and this is kind of a Katara's journey to a degree, water bending lesson, the pirates, and and this one is more about more like the Iroh side of things. Like, you have the Blue Spirit and the penguins. It's more like nature to a degree, right? It's kind of all over the place, to be honest, but it has a lot of animals, so I guess it's more that. And then you have a lot of Sokka, so I guess it's Sokka themed, even though the Blue Spirit has nothing to do with him. So that kind of thing. It's very flexible. Even if you get the same theme twice, that's kind of what you get. So and then Kyoshi kind of neglected one thing, so Roku had to compensate for that, and then Roku kind of led to the whole Fire Nation thing, which Aang had to compensate for, etc., etc., etc. So and then Aang did his thing, and then Korra had to compensate for him. That it's kind of interesting, and I love the idea actually, but it does bring the questions of like, are they the police? And I love that episode because it's like, listen, the Avatar doesn't need to be loved by everyone, and also the Avatar can make mistakes, right? And later when when Aang asks Kyoshi about the whole thing, she's like, well, I had to do it and I will do it again. And it's like, well, okay. So, that sort of thing. Then, so it's a great episode. It feels like filler, but it's not, because it touches a lot of things and it gives more context about Kyoshi and why there is a Kyoshi island and why the Avatars feel like they should have an island and they all create one. But okay, at least the last 3 ones. then you have the episode where Toph is introduced, the blind bandit, right? And that's great, and no one has complaints about that one. That's the whole shebang, which is like the whole story of Toph. I love Toph as a character. I find it a little bit that her name is Toph because she's tough. I guess that's kind of the thing. But as a character, I always loved her. She's her own. She doesn't care. She's blind, but she's not an invalid. Like she's not like, oh, I can't see. She's not a damsel in distress. She doesn't like. It's a character that isn't defined by what she is in any regard. I mean, she's a woman that doesn't let her. She doesn't act like a woman. There's this whole episode with Katara where they have like a girls' day. It seems like the Tales of Ba Sing Se, I think it is. And it's like, that's nice, thank you. But, and she continues to be the way she is. She doesn't care. She's blind. She doesn't care, right? And I think that's why a lot of people like Toph, because she's just tough. But it's not like she's impenetrable, because she still cares when, they have that exchange with those girls that make fun of them. Like, oh, what about that makeup? And, it's a great character. I just love it because she is the way she is, period. But not blindly, just, see the differences there, just in a different way. And the whole thing with her parents, I know that a lot of kids will have identified with that, even if you don't have like the same levels of everything. But, overprotective parents, you want them to be your own, having your own identity, etc. The whole thing about, she's the greatest earthbender, and she is, to the point that she later discovers / invents metal bending. So yeah, she is. And a lot of people say, and they are right, she is the best bender in the show, which she is. Obviously Aang is the Avatar, so he can do whatever, but something that has been kind of established by the show a lot is that, look at these different in colors in the same card. Like none is foil, right? So look at the difference in printing. Damn. I guess depending on the moment of the day. Like the Avatar is the master of elements. It doesn't mean that the Avatar is the best bender there is. Obviously it's very powerful, and when they enter the Avatar state, they have all that, etc. But also I love that they introduced the whole thing about like, if you die when in the Avatar state, you kind of break the cycle of the Avatar, which is crazy. It's a great limitation, because otherwise, why not being in Avatar state all the time, right? So that's very good. But Toph is no doubt the best bender there is. And they established already multiple times that a very good bender can just get rid of the Avatar if they know what they're doing. Sword Master. So Sokka Sword Master. Nice. So then we have the Zuko episode, the Zuko alone, which I don't recall which one that is. Which I guess is not a good sign. Let me check. Okay, I went to check because I was like, what? Yeah, Zuko alone is a great episode. I don't know why I forgot about it, but that's the thing. Like, a lot of things happen and you can easily forget. Like, Zuko alone is that episode where he like meets a family and helps them, only for, use firebending and then be casted away because, he's using firebending, which is part of the message that the show is always hammering, which is the whole, listen, just because you are from a place, it doesn't mean that everyone is the same in that place. And they say that a lot, like, not all people from the Fire Nation are evil, and they make a point of demonstrating that. And not all the people from the Earth Kingdom are good, and etc., etc., etc. I think that the only one that kind of gets a free pass is, the Water Tribe. Well, no, they have a bad person for the Water Tribe. I think that the only one that gets a pass is the Air Nomads, because, all of them are dead, so I guess there is not much of a chance. But everyone else, they show you like, they have good and bad everywhere. So that's good. Then you have the chase, which is kind of cool. Is the one that they're always chasing us. Why? And it's because Appa is shedding. That is good because it introduces that aspect, but also introduces the whole dynamic of the new group, because Toph just joined. So that's important to expand that, etc. Bitter Work. I don't remember exactly what happens in Bitter Work because I'm old. And then we have the library. The library is a great episode that also introduces a new mystical creature that only appears in one episode, similar to the Face Stealer. Fang, Roku's companion, nice. Which is very sad that he goes to die right next to him. I am torn between sad and lovely, because it's like, what? The library is great. You have that, again, the whole thing about like does the end justify the means, because they lie to the spirit, then they have to run. They also introduce one weakness to Toph that then they will exploit multiple times in multiple shapes, which is, well, Toph has an incredibly impossible way of detecting stuff with her feet, but not in sand, because sand it makes everything very noisy for her, which is great. So then you have all that segment. You discover, they introduce all the plot points about the meteor and the eclipse and all that. We once again see that Sokka is very resourceful, and Sokka is becoming more and more the thinking head. Like there is an episode later that he's like, well, you guys all have these cool powers, but I have nothing. It's like, well, and then he does the sword. That's in season 3. But the thing is that he already showed multiple times that his ingenuity is what makes him great. Like, he carries the team a lot in that sense, because otherwise it's just a bunch of kids with powers, and he's also a kid, but he has a vision, he has a drive. That's very good. And I think that's why Sokka, even though he is the comedic relief, he never feels like the bumbling idiot of the group. He feels like he's like and this and that, but he cares, and when he commits, he doubles down, right? And I think that's what saves his character a lot, to be honest. And it's what makes it great. Like, that duality, again, everything is gray in Avatar. Then you have the Serpent's Path, also good to showcase like how it's not everyone wants to go to the Earth Kingdom, everyone is running from the war, but not everyone, it's not just good because it is. And you have the Serpent's Path, which is a little bit more lore. Fun fact, trivia, the dragons, serpents thing that appeared there actually showed they were the main monsters in the on-air pilot, apparently. So they reused them. And then when they get, there is the whole Ba Sing Se saga, which I like it a lot, because again, it shows more grays. Like, Ba Sing Se is the greatest city on Earth, apparently. And not the Air Kingdom, but because it's bigger than anything that we see in the Fire Nation. And yes, we have all the lore about Iroh wasn't able to conquer it, etc. The Great Walls of Ba Sing Se, etc. And the lovely meme that everyone knows, there is no war in Ba Sing Se. And the Bounty Hunter, which important. She's an example of a character that comes back in season 3 for a very useful way of doing things, and then disappears again, which, it's like, well, we have it, so let's use it. This thing is broken, by the way, in the show. It's like, well, she can smell anything. It's like, well, that's crazy, my friend. And the whole saga of listen, Appa is lost, right, from the library. That's also great. Like, Aang is in stress. That's good, because we see Aang not being so much of a monk, and he being very angry, very triggered, very, full of anger, right? And that's weird for Aang, and that creates a stress. And it's like, why didn't Toph save him? And it's like, well, I mean, we don't know how long they've been traveling together, but I mean, she's fairly new to the group. Also, she saved your guys' life, so this is also great. This is from the Tales of Ba Sing Se. This is a great episode. Brave Soldier Boy comes marching home, man. That song, damn. And then at the end it says, in memory of Mako. It's like, poof, I'm getting skin, like my skin is crawling just of thinking of this. Like, I'm getting goosebumps. That's what I'm trying to say, because it's like great, with the whole brave soldier boy come marching home, which is great because it puts even more perspective into the character of Uncle Iroh, and why he treats Zuko that way, and why he is like that. I mean, not everything in life. It gives this whole dimension to Iroh, to the point that for a lot of people, the show is about different characters. And it's funny because I don't think, yes, Aang is the main character, right? And everyone loves Aang. But I don't think a lot of people go oh man, Aang is the one that changed. Aang has a lot of arcs, and he's also growing. At the end, he has the whole thing about principles and all that. And each season he has like something to overcome, similar to this one about the Avatar state. And Basing Se, he failed at Basing Se, he fails at Basing Se, and then he has to kind of live with it, etc. That's good. That's important. Like Aang is a great character as well, but Zuko, Iroh, and like Toph. I mean, people always mention those as their favorites, and there's a reason for that. So yeah, when they get to Ba Sing Se, the whole thing about the city, Dai Li, the conspiracy, how they keep the secrets. Then we have like, what is Appa? Appa is hidden. Then we have the Appa Lost Days episode, which like is just Appa having the craziest of lucks or bad lucks, like just getting there until he goes there, and then the lake when they have Jet. Like the whole Ba Sing Se thing is crazy and it's great, and how Azula infiltrates as the Kyoshi Warriors, which is kind of sad because they leave you on the verse there regarding the Kyoshi Warriors. One thing I have to say is that it is a kids show mostly, and to say this is the negative thing, but mostly because I was thinking about the Tales of Ba Sing Se, and you have the zoo episode, which is when the zoo part when he's like Aang does a zoo to help. You have the whole thing with the Earth King. He doesn't know anything and they have to demonstrate. And I always felt that episode is kind of cool with the way they do it, because normally how characters in fiction are either very smart or very stupid, and it's like no, but look, there are 3 dogs, and you are showing them the dogs, and they are like, nah, I don't think those are dogs, and you the viewer are like, wait, are these guys stupid or what? And I feel like with the Earth King is very reasonable the way they do it. It's like, listen, you have to believe. Ask him to show you the leg, and it's like, oh, that's a birthmark, and it's like, no, and he airbends, and then he gets Appa, and it's like the same thing. Oh, that doesn't prove anything, right? So there is like this back and forth that I feel it doesn't treat you like an idiot, and it doesn't like it's just not an easy cop out from the writers. That's good. I mean, I'm not saying that it's Shakespeare or anything, but it's good because it's like, okay, the king is reasonable. But they're not treating you or wasting your time with like pointless, like, oh, we are the same with Aang, right? With Aang at the end, it's like, oh, Aang is dead. It's like, he's not. I mean, the show is called The Last Airbender. I hate when shows do that. It's like, oh, the main character is dead. It's like, it's not. If you're gonna do it, commit to it or try to commit to it, like they did that in Shingeki no Kyojin. But the thing is that here they go very fast. It's like, oh, listen, Aang is dead, I guess, but not really. And they at the end of the season, they kind of fix that, and that's good because I mean, no one is going to believe that, right? It's like it's just drama for drama's sake. And here, I think the whole Ba Sing Se saga, I like it a lot. The Zuko's redemption is already there. Like he frees Appa, which then makes Appa lick him when he like tries to join the team in the next season. So there is a lot of setup. There's a lot of things, and the whole thing about, ironically, and this is what I think I love, the ironically, by doing all this thing of like, oh, we have to save the Air Kingdom, because let's remember that they had the whole drill thing, and the drill was like attacking Ba Sing Se, and they got rid of it. But it's like, damn, if they come with more of these things, this is crazy. And then you realize that there's no war in Ba Sing Se. So they have all that thing. And you understand that the Dai Li is a system. The good thing, and again, this show deals with grace, and that's why this thing is great. You can tell that I'm not even showing cards because I'm just like fully engaged. This plus we only have 2 more boosters remaining, so I'm trying to pace the thing because this has less boosters than Play Booster, so Play Booster box. So it is what it is. But you can tell that it's like, listen, they get to Ba Sing Se, which is the thing. Toph teaches Avatar, which is, by the way, Toph teaching Aang is the episode that I couldn't remember. It's bitter work. That's great because it shows a little bit about both, and even how Katara is like kind of the mom of the group too much, which is also a discussion that they have, and then they will keep having a discussion in the next season. So that's great. But the whole thing about earthbending is difficult for Aang because the elements are opposite, and being an earthbender means like being tough and being stubborn, and while being an airbender is kind of finding ways around things and flowing, right, and going. I love that adds a lot more depth to both the bending and the philosophies that are attached to each type of bending, and why, and kind of what makes you better at one or the other, right? Like Aang is always established as a great airbender, but again, we don't have a point of comparison, but Toph is great, and it's partly because she has so much determination. And this will come later with firebending too, when they go like, oh, because you need to have a drive for your firebending. Ironically, I don't think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think they do anything similar to what for waterbending in terms of like what is the drive for waterbending besides like the moon giving it power, etc. But the moon and the sun are the thing for like fire and water, so it's okay. But yeah, so I love that they do the whole thing about Ba Sing Se. They're trying to figure it out. We have the Tales of Ba Sing Se, which is an episode that has a story for each character. And, you know, Momo has a story. Aang has a story with the zoo and all that. Katara has a story. Sokka has the thing with the... Katara and Toph, when they do the makeup and all that. Zuko has the thing with his... well, actually, what does Zuko have? Is it the date? I think it's the date. I think it's in this episode that he has the date with a lady that kind of likes him a lot, I think. And then, I'm not sure. And then Iroh has the whole thing with his son, which is great. It's like, and it's lovely because it's an episode that is like five mini episodes or 6. And you have a lot of context and a lot of things for Iroh in a mini episode, like in a part of an episode. Same with Toph. Like that's why even if it feels like filler, it's not really, and it can never be, right? And that's what makes the show great. It feels like it respects you as a viewer, regardless of your age, and that's what's good. And then Sokka has the whole Haikyuu thing, which I think is lovely. So what I love about the ending of this season and the whole cause-consequence thing is that the Legend Zookeepers, this is the whole zoo and the animals thing, is that they get in the Earth Kingdom and in their thing, in their drive to like fix things because they are Team Avatar. And, you know, even though we know they are the good guys, we have to say one thing, which is they are kids. And they will always be kids at that stage. And they are kind of innocent in a lot of things. And, you know, I'm not defending the Dai Li, but the thing is that what I love is that by dismantling the Dai Li and being like, no, because they are hiding things from you, etc. And you think that's cool. But then immediately that exposed the Earth Kingdom to being attacked, something that wouldn't happen if the Dai Li was operating, right? Like the Kyoshi waters wouldn't get that close to the Earth King. And Sparky, big booms and lessons. Sparky, boom, man. I think that, whoever did the people responsible for this set just really love the show, and that shows. Haha, joke. I think that whole thing of like this only happened because you precisely opened the Earth Kingdom, and this is exactly what the Dai Li was trying to showcase. That, I mean, it doesn't make the Dai Li like, oh, they were right, but it kind of makes them right a little bit, right? Like, otherwise this thing will happen, and then the whole decay of the Earth Kingdom happens. Team Avatar tries to defend it, which is the whole thing with Aang going to master the Avatar state, and he comes back because he feels that Katara is in danger, and he couldn't master the Avatar state because he doesn't want to detach, which then we get a proof that like most avatars had like wives or something. So, you know, I get it, Guru Pathik, but it's like most avatars had a significant other. I don't see why, you know, unless he wanted the avatar to be like a killing machine with no emotions or something, which is interesting. The whole character of Guru Pathik is kind of interesting. But yeah, so the Crossroads of Destiny, the last episode, they fight is great. Aang engages the Avatar state, and then, you know, Zuko betrays them. Betrays them. He's not with them, but like Zuko betrays himself and his uncle. And Uncle Iroh kind of makes a stance at the same time. I always have a doubt if they did a thing with Iroh, which kind of put Iroh in a cell for most of season 3 because of the Mako passing away, right? Maybe it was because of that, but it kind of serves the story a lot, so who knows? Maybe it was planned since the beginning. And at the same time, there are other things that I don't really quite understand. Like, for example, and this is the last booster, by the way, earthbending, weaponize your lands. Some things that I don't really understand, which is like I get it that the Earth King was like, they kind of dismissed the Earth King in a phrase later. They said like, oh, well, he disguised as a peasant and went to explore the world. And I get it in the sense that if you're a caged king and you are not, see the Tale of Qatar and tough, nice. Maybe you can be like, well, I guess, right? This is the fire prison that has the earthbenders. I guess that, it's one of those things that is like, by the way, this is from the first episode, the Avatar state, that they try to force Aang into the Avatar state because it's like, it's a machine, we can do everything with that. And then it fires back in the last episode of the season, which is great. I feel like it's very well rounded, the second season. It feels like the meatiest because it has a lot of things that are happening, but it spans everything. Like, for example, I didn't even touch the whole Azula entering the arena. Like, Azula was a character that kind of existed in the first season, but then she becomes basically Admiral Zhao in the second season, and she becomes the pursuer of Team Avatar, or the gang, as some people say. And more than the ones that can fit in here, crazy. And she has Ty Lee and May, a great set of companions. And also something to be said is that, the antagonist being 3 girls is interesting for that era. And it makes sense also. And the setup that they have there and how those, it's not just like 3 firebenders, like, because the other 2 are actually not firebenders, which actually validates them, because like you can be deadly as hell without being a bender, as we can see. And that's actually pretty cool. And there are actually some theories about Ty Lee being an air nomad or something like that, like a descendant from the air nomads and not being told. There are some theories. People love to do theories about this. But the whole thing about how they open the Earth Kingdom only for it to fall, and then we end up losing, is great. My only thing I remember watching it back in the day and now is that the whole Earth King being like, well, that sucks, and leaving. Again, I understand it from the point of he was caged, he didn't, is what it is. And he was like, let me explore the world. I don't care. Maybe he didn't feel any attachment to his people, I guess. But it's kind of weird that he didn't feel any attachment to anything. He just got away. Maybe you could say that it's like, well, because what else he was supposed to do? He didn't have any training or anything. He depended on the Dai Li. The Dai Li, by the way, I should say, they're a bunch of pussies, because it's like they switch allegiances like this. It's like, what is this? To be like the elite force that technically, I read somewhere that it was established by one of the avatars established that. I think it was Kyoshi maybe or something. But it's like, what is this? I like it because it gives more gravitas to the thing, but at the same time, it's like, come on. What is your pride as Earth Kingdom? I guess there is no pride. But it's funny because when Iroh describes the Earth Kingdom people, he says that they are strong people, pride with a lot of pride in their land or whatever. And the Dai Li, which are like the protectors of the kingdom to a degree, are like, nah, which I guess is the point. They are a bunch of rats, but still. I just love how it evolves and how it shows the thing. The king is the one part that I'm like, because then he comes back at the end, if I recall correctly. Or he shows in a comic or something. And it's like, okay. At this point, anyone else can be the king of the Earth Kingdom. Like, even Boomy. What's up with that? So, mixed feelings with that one little thing in particular, but overall it's great. I've been rambling non-stop for an hour, and I still be like, I didn't talk about Azul, I didn't talk about her companions, I didn't talk about this, I didn't talk about, there's so much stuff that happens in season 2, and there's a lot of little things that they show here and there, a lot of small conversations. They just set up everything perfectly for us to go to the 3rd season, where Aang survived, but that's something that they didn't touch. Like, here he wakes up, so you're like, he's alive, and then it ends, and it's like, well, the Earth Kingdom has fallen. And you're like, damn, that's crazy. And you get the impression that it's like, well, he was hit while in the Avatar state, So they later mentioned in season 3 that kind of he can get into it again, but it's not really said that. It's just more like a confidence problem. And at the same time, they did mention that, if you're killed in the avatar state, but then apparently he has no problem like talking back to the other avatars or anything. So it feels like a cop out a little bit there. Like you can be like, no, because he was revived. And it's like, sure, at least he was revived with something that was established in season 1, which is the water that Katara was almost using on Zuko, which is also a thing. So people ship Zuko and Katara. I think it kind of makes sense, maybe more than Katara and Aang, because Katara and Aang feels a little bit like from what we see up to this point of the season 2, it feels like Aang likes Katara because she is very motherly, and she's like, it feels weird. It feels like Aang likes her because she's like the mom of the group, and she's very pretty and all that, and that's okay. They are kids, and we know that they end up marrying and having 3 kids. But the thing is, it feels a little bit like, and Katara feels a little bit like, well, the fortune teller tells her that she's gonna fall in love with a powerful bender. And it's like, well, and apparently that is kind of, which proves that episode, by the way, from season 1, is like kind of the prophecy kind of is like a self-fulfilling prophecy, because it kind of steered her that way into looking at Aang in a different way. But I always felt like she cared for him because it was kind of the role that she was having. Like she was the mom of the group. With Zuko, it's more of a back and forth, common interest, common trauma type of thing. But I digress. I'm not a relationship advisor. So we finished with the box. Conclusions regarding both the box, Jumpstart, and season 2. So regarding the season 2, I like it. As I said, it's filled in the best way possible, in the sense that it fills the sandwich. You have the beginning, which is a very good season. You have the end, which is a good season. And then you have the middle, which establishes a lot and introduces a lot of things. Introduces Iroh as a proper, like all the things that happen to Iroh. Introduces the beginning and the conflict of Zuko. Introduces Azula properly. Introduces the friends of Azula. It evolves all the characters, right? Like Aang evolves a little bit. Katara evolves a little bit. Sokka evolves a little bit. Toph is introduced. And then you also have, even Appa is evolved a little bit with the whole, like, we see like the relationship between Aang and Appa, and how the Bisons are like a thing that you have for life, a connection with them, and, all that stuff. So they expand everything. They even expand waterbending with the whole like swamp thing. So there is a lot of expansion here. So it's filling a lot of gaps and creating a lot more things. They talk about the eclipse, which makes sense. They talk about the comet a lot more, and you have the whole thing about this is the plan, this is what we need to do, and that's what takes them to their kingdom. So it's very well written, it's very solid. I like season 2 a lot, and however, it does feel like the middle part. It feels like it works, but obviously you will be like, well, season 2. But I feel like season 1 obviously starts is a lot more like beginning and end. Season 2 is more like, we need to get an earthbending teacher, then it devolves into things and ends in a different point. It doesn't feel like so much as a to B as season 1 or 3 for that matter. It feels more like we started here and ended in a different place. So not bad, just a thing. When it comes to the Jumpstart boosters, are they worth it? Well, I think that if you like Avatar and you like Magic the Gathering, or want to get into Magic the Gathering, but you don't want to do any deck building or anything, and you just want a little bit of flavor, and you already played with the beginner box, and you are tired of it, this is an expansion to the beginner box. Or if you don't want the beginner box, this is an expansion to anything. These cards work. You can use the cards for whatever. They don't need to be like contained here. But I mean, you saw these themes. You just grab 2 that you like and fight another one that you like, or you just randomly select 2 and you just fight another person with randomly selected 2, and you do quick games, and you can try and try again. With a whole box, you have enough themes that you have enough weird combinations to have, to not get bored that easily, I will say. Now, disclaimer, in Jumpstart, from my own experience, same color combinations are kind of more powerful. So If you want to balance it, try to always be like 2 different color combinations or the same color combinations, because otherwise it becomes kind of obvious that the person that has a same color deck is a lot stronger. Also, if you have same color cards in a deck, it becomes a little bit more difficult to separate them afterwards to play with. In terms of Jumpstart, the themes of the Jumpstart avatar, I mean, mechanically they are okay. Thematically, which is kind of the joke, they are great. They pick themes from the show. They grab as much things as possible from the show to fit into certain themes. It's very lovely. I will say that, it's not the best Jumpstart ever. I still think that Jumpstart and Jumpstart 22 are the best Jumpstarts. But I guess this will be the third best Jumpstart, which is not difficult because all the others are theme Jumpstarts that are not very good. But this is not bad. It's just, it doesn't have like some of the weird reprints that Jumpstart and Jumpstart 22 had, because it is bound to Avatar, for better or worse. But in terms of the experience of doing this with Avatar and getting some flavor and stuff, it's great. So I will recommend it in case you don't want to do Commander or you don't want to build decks yourself. This is kind of a quick board game version of Magic. And if you don't know anything, please go first for the beginner box, which is cheaper. And after you get bored with that, because it also has 8 of these, not the same themes, but 8 things like this, you can expand with this. So that's it. Next time that we do a podcast, it will be the last season of Avatar. Let me know what you think down below. Let me know what you think about this format of commenting random stuff while we open cards. And as usual, thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for your time. And I hope to see you next time on PAX and Recreation. Earthbending.